Time for the Sunshine State Showdown, covering every top sports story in the state of Florida, from South Beach to the state capital and everything in between. And now, without further ado, your hosts, Brandon Kravitz and Zac Blobner.
Welcome in, folks. Monday edition of the Sunshine State Showdown, covering all the biggest sports stories inside of the Sunshine State. Me, I'm Brandon Kravitz. He is Zac Blobner, the Sultan of Stream. You thought I'd forget. We're on in Orlando, Miami, Jacksonville in Duval. Oh, man, we're in sync today. It's feeling like a good week. Coming up on the show, we'll talk about the glorious mid-90s Magic teams. I'm testing out a brand new game show that I'm curious to get your feedback on, Zac, and Zac Blobner. That's it, just Zac for a full hour. What else do you need?
I saw that on the show sheet today. It said game show, and I was like, what does Brandon Kravitz have up his sleeve today? I'm hoping that we are better set and prepared for a game show type segment than we are for your poll segments, which have left a little bit, on the table. But I'm excited. I'm ready.
I'm just letting those breathe for a minute, seeing if maybe I could just spark something more natural with that. But my game show today is called What Exactly Is Going On Here? So zany stuff.
A question I find myself asking very often, so I like it.
And there's plenty of that going on in the state recently. So we'll ask that question and get to a whole lot more. I was actually out and about a bit this weekend. I mean, I wasn't in, a large phrase or anything, but I went and saw my parents who live a few miles away from me. And this is the first time in a couple of months that we've gotten together. And it was Mother's Day, felt it appropriate, but just getting out and doing something mildly different. I know, Zac, your life hasn't changed drastically since the entire shutdown, but do you feel like, at least for yourself, with things slowly starting to open up, that things are changing in your world at all? Because it does for me, just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I actually was just having this conversation with another person that's been coming into the building at my job, where it's hard for us to tell because we're so, still in what we would have been in as far as work-wise and life-wise normally. Now, the guys that I work with in the morning are both remotely working, but with the video streams we're doing now, our show hasn't really changed a whole lot. But as we're starting to see other people now that are going to be allowed back in the building, you're starting to see more people going out again and get together again, especially with a holiday like Mother's Day, where, you're going to see family. You're not like, it's not like Cinco de Mayo where you're partying. Like, you're going to have a small gathering of your closest family members to celebrate the moms in your lives. And I think, for me, it's from the outside looking in. I actually feel a little bit more anxiety than I anticipated, because I've been fine through this whole thing. I'm like, look, my life hasn't changed much. I feel for those that have. But as I see other people starting to go back to work and get in the mix, I'm like, ooh, I hope that, you've been doing what you need to do to make sure this thing doesn't get worse. But on the bright side, outside of that, that also means we're a step closer to sports, a step closer to those get-togethers, those, nights out at a bar where you can clink drinks and watch a game, and, those date nights that are actually out at a restaurant and you don't spend all week trying to be creative, because I can only do that so many times before it starts to get even lamer than it already is.
Wait, you mean you can only make so many Star Wars brownies? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, pretty much, man. I mean, look, it's cool, right? And I even talked to
That's very creative, by the way. Follow Zac if you're not already at Zac on the mic. You're missing out.
I talked to her about this because we did the Disney virtual stuff 2 weekends ago. We did the Star Wars virtual stuff this weekend. And it's cool. We enjoyed it. But I was like, how much can we do this? Like, we can't do this every week forever, right? And so I was like, can we just agree that we're going to not do this for a few weeks? So anyways, it's been fun, but I'm ready to get back to the world, at least close to the world that we knew. And again, that includes sports, man. Yes. I need sports, Brandon. UFC was nice, but I need sports.
I watched some of the prelims, watched a little Money in the Bank, watched the documentary last night. So I'm getting some stuff, but
appetizers. Those are appetizers, Brandon. I need a damn meal.
I refuse to dwell on everything related to the coronavirus, so I'm going to move on. It's time for the opening round. The Sunshine State is dominating jersey sales in the NFL. This is amazing. According to NFLshop.com, since the draft, I presume that's the time frame because that's when Tua's jersey came out. Tua has the top-selling jersey in all of football. He's also number 2. In fact, the top 7 most popular jerseys in the league selling right now are all in the state of Florida, essentially either Tua, Tom Brady, or Rob Gronkowski. And this is basically breaks it down into color, not just player. The puppy making an appearance. Is that Oliver making an appearance on our video stream?
This is Mickey. This is a new pup.
Okay.
Well, not a new pup. New pup for the stream, not the show or my life, I guess. Anyways.
Okay. Good time to adopt, I guess. Number 1 is the Dolphins Aqua home jersey.
Solid choice.
Number 2, in terms of highest selling jerseys, is the Dolphins white away jersey. Number 3 is Tom Brady's pewter alternative vapor. I didn't know that vapor was a way to describe color. Number 4 is Tom Brady Buccaneers white vapor. Number 5 is Tom Brady Buccaneers red. Number 6 is Tom Brady Buccaneers red vapor. You're going to have to explain to me what the difference is there. 7 is Rob Gronkowski, the pewter alternate. Number 8 is Joe Burrow, the lone player outside of the Sunshine State to crack the top 10. Number 9 is Rob Gronkowski in red, and number 10 is the pewter alternative for Tom Brady. So if you're doing the math, that's 9 of the top 10 jersey sales are between the Dolphins and the Bucs. Folks, when we have been telling you how relevant these teams have become, I don't need any more evidence than this. Amazing, right?
It's fantastic. And I think we expected Tua and Brady to be in there, like towards the top 5. But you're talking about like multiple versions of their jerseys. Then you throw Gronk in the mix. And like, I'll be honest, I knew that he would do well. I didn't know if it was going to go great, though. I didn't know it was going to pop like it is. And it's just wild. Now, you have to remember, too, Brandon, what you have here is you have new jerseys for the Bucs as well. And I know that some people are like, oh, they look like the old jerseys. But nonetheless, you have new jerseys. You got the greatest player of all time, quarterback-wise, in Tom Brady. And then you got maybe one of the most entertaining players, maybe the best tight end of all time, in Rob Gronkowski. And then Tua, who this whole fan base down in Miami is basically going to put, their excitement on his shoulders to perform not only this year, but the next several. So there's a lot of hype surrounding all 3 of those players. And again, you throw in a New Jersey for the Bucs. It makes total sense. It really does. And Joe Burrow being the number 1 overall pick, Cincinnati not having a whole lot to celebrate the last few years, that makes sense in the mix as well. But this just goes to show something me and you have been very adamant about for weeks now. And that is the fact that Florida, despite sports being shut down, is still finding a ton of ways to be relevant in the sports world, whether it's Tom Brady and the Brady bump in Tampa Bay, whether it's, the idea of spring training coming back in some capacity, and the MLB starting up with Florida in mind as a part of the reasoning why. There's just a ton to look at, and this goes to show that.
Orlando hosting the NBA, if it does return in June. I mean, Disney? We've become quite the hub of information, and no secret. There's no secret sauce here. When you start a show like the one that we are on right now, you need stuff like this, and we are bathing in it. And it's one of the reasons why we've been able to launch the way that we have, and we appreciate everybody's support as we've done that. What I'm amazed by, of course, you get new jerseys, you get new threads. Those are always going to sell well. You add pieces like Brady and Gronk. So you're right. I'm not surprised. When I look at this list, the only thing that shocks me is that Tua has 2 jerseys that are selling better than Joe Burrow's best-selling jersey. This guy just came off the best run we've ever seen from a college football player ever for an extremely likable coach and program at LSU. And he gets drafted number 1 overall. And there's more. Okay, so most of these jersey sales are coming from the fans of those particular teams. I don't see a lot of guys in middle America going, man, I just have to get my hands on a Tua jersey. So Dolphins fans are telling you, we have been clamoring for this so much harder than you have in Cincinnati. That's what this tells me, is that Dolphins fans just wanted this so bad that they are gobbling up these jerseys very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, they're both quarterbacks too, so it's not like one has the edge when it comes to the position, right? It's mind-blowing because it's not like the Bengals have a ton of studs on that team. I mean, look, I'm sure there's some people that bought a Joe Mixon jersey, but even he came out with such issues when he was drafted that, like, I don't know if he's the first guy on that team I would try to buy, or the second, or the third, just because of his off-the-field issues. And again, I know a lot of people could separate that, and I certainly try to when I do talk sports, but nonetheless, it's like he's not a hot jersey to have in Cincinnati. AJ Green's barely played, right? We don't even know if he's going to be there, let alone soon, like this season. He won't be there much longer, regardless of how you slice it. And then it's like, Tyler Boyd jersey. Like, what jerseys are you buying in Cincinnati? Like, what jersey do you have that you're like, I'm ready for 2020 and beyond?
You know what? I'm going to piggyback off of that because I think you brought up in sort of reading between the lines of what you just said. I think you brought up an interesting point for if you were to just explain this in a very analytical way of how sales works. So we said,
crunch the numbers.
All right, crunching the numbers. So it makes sense. If you come out with new threads, you're going to sell those jerseys because nobody has them yet. So if you're in the business as a fan of buying jerseys, nobody owns the new Bucs uniforms yet. So those are going to sell well. Then who are you going to buy? Brady and Gronk. They're the newcomers.
Correct.
So that's not a surprise. The Dolphins, if you're a Dolphins fan, who's the last jersey you bought? I mean, think about that. Who's the last jersey? And chances are, whatever the answer is, and I don't know what it is, that guy's probably not on the team anymore. Okay? Tannehill, Kenyon Drake, maybe some people have Devontae Parker jerseys, but not a ton with the way that he played throughout the first 5 years.
Devontae isn't like a Jarvis Landry, Mike Wallace. Like, you saw a ton of those jerseys. We'll go further back. Chris Chambers. Like, Devontae Parker, and I know you love him from a fantasy aspect, whatever. He's not a hot jersey,
no,
though.
He's not. And he was great, but he was great in the second half of last season. So that's not enough time to spike a jersey sale. Now look at Cincinnati as I'm crunching.
Xavier Howard, maybe? Like,
nobody's buying defensive back jerseys. People don't do that. So in Cincinnati, if you're a jersey buyer, most people probably only own one jersey, okay? Chances are, if you buy a Bengals jersey, you already own it. It's an AJ Green jersey, and he's still on the team. So when Burrow comes out, you're like, well, I already have one Bengals jersey. If you're a Dolphins fan, you do not have an active Dolphins player's jersey right now. You just don't. And so I think that that's why. Because you finally have somebody's jersey that you can actually purchase and be proud of. And that person has not existed. As bad as the Bengals have been, they've had AJ Green for a little while. And so that's allowed them to, it's allowed that fan base to wear that jersey proudly. There's my jersey breakdown.
I don't disagree. I don't. But nonetheless, and I'll leave it off this. No matter how you slice it, it's mind-blowing that Joe Burrow's jersey isn't selling more in Cincinnati.
I agree.
Period.
I agree. All right, moving on. Around the corner, I'm testing it out. This is a brand new game show. We'll see how it works. What exactly is happening here? That's the game show. We'll get to it next.
Welcome back to the Showdown with your hosts, Brendan Kravitz and Zac Blobner.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Time for some added insight. Let's head to the Sunshine State Hotline.
I know when that hotline blink.
Let's chat with Phillip Rossman-Reich, editor and writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Last night, we were delighted by another reminder of just how cool the mid-90s were for Magic fans in the Last Dance documentary. Michael Jordan coming back wearing the 4-5, taking on Penny Hardaway and Shaquille O'Neal and friends. Phillip, we'll start there. First of all, it's great to talk to you again. And second, how much do you enjoy these moments where we get to live through the nostalgia of mid-90s Magic basketball?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you get to talk about the mid-90s Magic, it's always a good time. I mean, we can argue whether the 1995 Magic were the best team in Magic history. I think a lot of fans would agree that they are, but that team was really when this town fell in love with NBA basketball and with this team. I mean, obviously they were excited to have a team in Orlando to begin with, but you know, that's when it became real. That's when the city really put itself on the map. And that 1995 team, you know, no matter what happens in the rest of Magic history, is always going to hold a special place for Magic fans. And it's always great just to see them, you know, get a little bit of their due.
Phillip Zac Blobner here in Tampa Bay, man. Pleasure to chat with you a little bit. And I spend way too much time on Twitter. I'm just going to say that off the bat. I noticed that Vooch and Mo Bamba got into a little bit of, I don't even know if it was a spat. I would just say they had some dialogue about the fact that Mo Bamba was watching it, basically, the series, and was catching it last night like most of us were. And, you know, Vooch threw a little jab in there like, were you even born when this was happening? And Mo Bamba seemed like he took a little offense to it, responded with, oh, I didn't know that time only existed, you know, since I was born on. I guess I missed that in history class. I don't know if you caught that exchange, but just your reaction to it.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of it, and you know, those guys are always having fun. Mo can be a little bit of a troll online sometimes, and Vooch especially has this very dry sense of humor. So you know, I don't take much out of it as far as the relationship between the two. But you know, I think it's fun to watch. You know, the kind of current generation watch these players. I mean, I think I read an article somewhere today. I think I read an article on ESPN about this. Zach Lowe wrote about it, how many of the players in today's NBA were simply too young to see Michael Jordan in person. That, you know, they've never watched a game from Jordan from tip to buzzer, and that's, you know, honestly a real shame. I mean, I was young enough where I watched Jordan, but maybe wasn't quite aware of how great he was. And I often tell my younger cousins who didn't get a chance to see Jordan, like, my greatest regret as a basketball fan, was I was such a Magic fan. I didn't appreciate Jordan enough because I hated him so much for beating up on my Magic. You know, so I think what this documentary's done a real good job of is letting younger people know and allowing younger people to kind of get into the mind frame of that time, of the day-to-day grind of that time, where this guy, this one player, was such an all-encompassing figure in not just basketball but pop culture. So, you know, Vooch maybe needs to lay off the young kid. This is probably Mo's real first exposure to what Michael Jordan was all about. So, you know, I think it's all good and fun. I'm glad that so many people in the basketball world are watching this, because Jordan's history does deserve a lot of appreciation, and it's been a little bit forgotten.
Yeah, ironically, not only is the younger generation getting to appreciate the greatness from MJ, but they're also getting to see the weirdness of Dennis Rodman. Just as a whole, do you think that so far the documentary is hitting a home run as far as the depiction of the teams that played in Chicago around that time? You know, are they doing a good job?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, obviously it's told from the Bulls' perspective, and more specifically, it's told from Jordan's perspective. So I think, you know, it's been given a lot of time to tell a very wide and long story. It's a very difficult story, I think, to get in full. And I think this documentary's done about as good as it can do to kind of really capture the aesthetic. Are there things that I think it could and should have done better? Are there, you know, maybe opponents and teams that I think deserve a little bit more due? Absolutely. I mean, I think the Magic are one of them. I think that it's kind of rushed through some of these battles that Jordan had when he won his title. Those 93 Suns were an incredible team. I mean, I think they gave the 96 Sonics some respect that history's kind of lost to them because that Bulls team was so all-encompassing. But at the end of the day, I think that also serves the story. And I think that as long as you watch this documentary understanding that it is just the Jordan, just the Bulls perspective, you're obviously getting a very clear picture of what NBA basketball was like in the 90s.
We're chatting with Phillip Rossman-Reich, OrlandoMagicDaily.com. I know that you're very in tune with what the fans are talking about online and all of that. And I think one of the great things that a documentary like this surfaces is the debate of different eras and certainly the 90s versus what we're seeing today. Are you somebody that's sort of like bites the bait on that, where you're willing to get into those arguments about could a Michael Jordan put up 40 points per game in today's NBA? Where do you land on all of that stuff?
I'm not huge into those debates. I don't like getting into that because players and teams are very much a product of their time. I think Kobe Bryant really said it best in his segment in the documentary, where he said, I'm here only because of the foundation that Jordan laid for me. I'm only here because I was able to watch Jordan and build off of what he did. And I think that's absolutely true. I mean, when you look at Michael Jordan, he played a very 80s, 90s style, a lot of mid-range jumpers, a lot of isolation basketball. But if he would have grown up in today's NBA, with today's culture and climate, he would have been shooting threes. He would have been able to do all that stuff plus a lot more. I think when it comes to the debate about whether a player like Michael Jordan could play in the modern age of basketball, or whether a player like LeBron James could go back to the 80s or 90s, I think the great players, the reason they're great is they can play no matter what the style. They can figure it out. They're talented and they're good enough to figure it out. They're groomed, obviously, by the times that created them, but they are good enough to figure it out. What's really different is the role players. Would a Dennis Scott thrive more in today's NBA than he did in the 90s? I absolutely agree with that. That doesn't mean Dennis Scott was a bad player in the 90s or Dennis Scott would be a better player today. That he's just kind of groomed by the times that created him. And I think that's the most important lesson to take away from this, is that the greats are great no matter what. And basketball is just different and it evolves. It's not good or bad. It's not good or bad. It's not better or worse. It just evolves.
That's really well put. Nick Anderson stealing the ball in game one. That moment was detailed in the documentary last night. Is that hands down the greatest moment in Orlando Magic history?
I think without a doubt it is the greatest moment in Magic history. I mean, you can even see the attention that this documentary gave to that moment and even to that series. Well, I don't think it went maybe as deep as some Magic fans would like, because I do think that 95 team deserves a little bit more respect than the documentary gave them. That moment really drove Michael Jordan. It really showed that Jordan was human. And for the first time really in his career, he failed. I mean, one thing that I think The Last Dance brought out that didn't come out in this Magic moment as much in the Magic documentary is essentially all the talking heads said, Jordan failed. Jordan choked. And the mystique of Jordan is he made every last minute shot, every last second shot. He made every buzzer beater. This was a moment where he failed, and it was very clear that it drove him to be a lot better. And obviously that 96 season was a historic season for him and the Bulls.
I mean, I always felt like Aaron Gordon's diss track of Dwayne Wade was the greatest moment in Magic history. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, guys. Funny. We were just talking, Phillip. My first question to you was about like the smallest, most insignificant conversation on Twitter between Vooch and Mo Bamba. Now, we look at Michael Jordan punch Steve Kerr and get into a fight with him in practice, and it pretty much get brushed under the rug. I mean, the media was aware of it, and the country knew about it, but we were just like, whatever, like it is what it is, and for the most part moved on pretty quickly. What kind of world, or if that happened in today's world, what kind of reaction would you see from the world?
Well, I mean, we did see a fight in a practice a few years ago, right, with Bobby Portis and Nikola Mirotic.
That's right.
Essentially, that ended Nikola Miricic's time in Chicago. That ended Bobby Portis' time in Chicago. Now, obviously, they're not the level of Michael Jordan, but I think what the real lesson from that was that at the time, both Steve Kerr and Michael Jordan didn't take it personally. I think yes, if that had happened today, it would have been blown up. Everyone would have been talking about it. They would have been chatting about it. I mean, but you look even in Magic history, when Scott Skiles fought Shaquille O'Neal at a practice in Shaq's rookie season in Los Angeles, it was a big deal. It is a story that we still tell each other. But ultimately, if the team is together, if the team works, it brings them together. The story about Jordan calling up Steve Kerr to apologize, and him understanding that it was his emotions boiling over. Jordan said Steve Kerr had his respect that day, because he was willing to stand up for himself. He was willing to fight back. And that's what Jordan was looking for in teammates. Stuff like that can tear teams apart or can bring them together. And figuring that out is really, really, really key as far as building a championship. Now, the media crush obviously today would be much huger because our news cycle is 24/7. Back in the 90s, you only had newspaper, maybe a few TV stations covering teams. It wasn't the constant 24/7 coverage that we see today. So I think teams would have had to handle it a little bit differently. But I'm sure dust-ups like this happen all the time. And even in a leaky league like the NBA, I don't think we hear about it as often as it happens.
Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate chatting basketball with you and look forward to your coverage. Of course, you can read this stuff now, OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can also get it whenever the Magic end up playing games again, which hopefully is sooner rather than later. It's OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Phillip Rossman-Reich, editor and writer for that great website. Thanks so much, Phillip. We appreciate your time.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.
Yep. You know, it's interesting. I think one of the things that he touched on, Zach, that I absolutely love is the comparison of generations. Now, I don't mind having that debate. I think it's part of the fun of being a sports fan. But I hate when people go, well, Jordan didn't hit threes and LeBron's a better three-point shooter. Do you mean to tell me that if, first of all, if Michael played today, that he couldn't hit threes, and that if LeBron played in the 90s, that he would be shooting them? Hell no, that wouldn't happen. LeBron wouldn't be shooting a single three-pointer if at that size and that physicality if he was playing in the 90s. He'd have been playing.
Have him rough and tough down low.
Yeah, he would have been Karl Malone.
Him and Charles Oakley would have been going head-to-head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, I hear you.
Anyway, we close it down. Coast to Coast is next.
Now, back to the Sunshine State Showdown with Brandon Kravitz and Zac Blobner.
Oh, yeah, folks. Happy to be back on a Monday. Hope you guys had as good a weekend as we did. Remember, you can find our show on iHeartRadio simply by searching Sunshine State Showdown with a new podcast posted and uploaded daily. Brandon Kravitz here along with my partner in crime, Zac Blobner. All right, so I've been teasing you with this all day long. This is my newest game show. We'll see whether or not this is a hit
I'm so
or
scared.
a complete
I'm so terrified
flop
right now.
This game show, ladies and gentlemen, is titled, What Exactly is Going On Here? And we even have some wacky game show music, Zach. So this ought to be, as they say in the biz, a load of fun. Let's start with Governor Ron DeSantis, shall we? I mean, allow me to lay the groundwork a little bit better, okay? This segment's going to feature a few things that happen around the state that have me shaking my head as a game show host. Zach will play the role of voice of reason and tell me, you guessed it, what exactly is going on here. So let's start, as I said, with Ron DeSantis. He was on the Sean Hannity show taking a shot at the Miami Marlins.
I think you need baseball back. I think you need the sports back. I also want our kids to be playing sports again. Yeah, really. I mean, I think that this has been a big, big problem that they've been on the sidelines. So yeah, we've got to do it. And you're right. I think there's certain folks who are going to be much more high risk. And I think that those are probably advised to not go to events like that once they get underway. But I think for most folks, you're going to be fine. And look, I mean, if you go down to like the Miami Marlins, as much as I hate to say it, yeah, they're not selling out, Sean. So you go there, and it's kind of social distancing, anyways, because the stadium's usually only about a quarter full.
Ouch! That hurts a little bit, Gov. All right, Zach, tell me what exactly is going on here.
Well, you see, he's trying to be funny, right? Politicians want to be personable; they want to be likable. The problem is when you're making jokes and you're taking shots. It's supposed to be at other people, not the team in your backyard. Like, if DeSantis would have said that about literally any other team in the MLB that wasn't the Marlins or the Rays even, he could have gotten away with it. We would have been like, attaboy, he's got our back. Like, he could have said it about the Blue Jays. Right. We would have been like, they're already doing that in Canada. So, like, he had the right idea, but you don't do it to your own team. Like, that's where he messed up.
I mean, I like how our governor is essentially quoting overused memes online. You can tell how he's spending some of his downtime, just flipping through.
It's not even, but we've talked about people sharing memes and making that joke. It's unoriginal. It's lazy. Yes. And you can do better. I'm okay with taking jokes, but you can do better.
Yeah, and so elaborate, Ron. Come on, tell me. Is that the plan then? Have the Marlins just gotten ahead of it, and is that now the way of the world? Or are you just taking pot shots at a bad baseball organization?
And not to get political, but he could have been like, well, if you want, to fill the stands with mannequins, I know a bunch of people in the Senate that don't, move around a whole lot or something. Yeah, you could have made a funny joke that wasn't too over the top. I mean, there's things there.
Well, the voice of reason is spitting plenty of it here. Let's move on. Let's talk about MITB. That's Money in the Bank, where R-Truth, the former 24/7 champion, went on during a promo and called out one of the players for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think he may have gotten this one wrong. Let's check it out.
If I don't want to be lonely, it's time I do something about it. It's time to get my baby back. I don't care where you've taken my 24/7, 48/7, 7-Eleven, I-95 South, 1492, Columbus sailed the Ocean Blue Championship. I'm going to sack you, Tom Brady, and take back my 24/7 championship.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it.
He means Rob Gronkowski.
That's right. He does, lady. Hey, Zach, what exactly is going on here?
Listen, I'll tell you this. I'm not going to hate on wrestling, but if Gronk and Truth got in an actual fight, I think we all know how it would go down. With that being said, Gronkowski's got more important things to focus on. He's had a little fun with the WWE, like a fun hobby when you retire, like bird watching or puzzle piece making or whatever the heck people do.
Winning championships in wrestling is just like bird watching.
24/7 championships a lot different than the heavyweight belt.
You got that right.
Know it.
You're very true. Very true.
With that being said, Truth, if you want the belt, just ask Gronk. He's preoccupied. He's got to learn a freaking playbook, man. He's got to get in football shape.
Does this mean that we can expect a title defense at training camp if it happens?
I don't know about training camp. It's going to happen a lot sooner than that. I think you're going to see, I don't know how, but you're going to see something prior to, so Kronk can focus on football. I'm not too worried about it.
Tua Tagovailoa, the show-off that he is, upstages all of us on Mother's Day, purchasing his mom a brand new Cadillac Escalade. What exactly is going on here? Tua making us all look like bad sons.
Well, I mean, if I was drafted 5th overall, I'd probably do something similar for my mom. Unfortunately, Brandon, as you know, for what we get paid to do what we do, it's more like we'll get her a Hot Wheels car, or like a plush version of a car. No, look, good for him. That's like a common thing. Yeah. Picture of a car would work. Yes, that's like a common thing these rookies do, right? A lot of guys will do it on their first bonus that comes in, or their first extension. They'll buy their mom a house or a car or something that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. And look, the way I look at it, do it. It's good to save your money. I hope that's not how they're going about their finances in general. But listen, if there's one person you need to take care of when you get paid, it's mom.
It's mom.
And it was Mother's Day.
It was perfect timing.
I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
I'm cool with it. And his jersey sales, Brandon. His jersey sales are helping.
Absolutely. Now, I'm surprised personally that Nick Saban hadn't already purchased her a Cadillac Escalade. So,
are you sure that he hadn't?
Now she's got 2. Better expand that driveway.
The 2021 is a little nicer than the 2017. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man. The Tagovailoa family's making moves. Did you see that his brother also has entered the transfer portal? He's leaving Alabama. So much for loyalty to Saban. I think he's going to end up coming to South Florida.
Well,
I don't know about the University of South Florida, but the region of South Florida.
He, I'm sure he'll get picked up somewhere and he'll be all right.
Moving on, UFC 249 was this weekend. Fights took place in Jacksonville. They performed well, from what I understand. Dana White went off the rails. Let's listen.
Steven Espinoza tweeted that you guys have a clause in your contract that could take the fighter's purse away if they say something negative about the company. I just wanted to give you a chance to respond to that.
That's not true. First of all, there's something in the contract for disparagement. There's a disparagement clause in there that's in all of our contracts. Isn't that creepy looking little a lawyer? Does he not know what disparagement means?
Okay, Dana White getting a little bit ornery. What exactly is going on here? Why is he so upset?
That's great. Listen, I don't always agree with Dana White, but he is damn entertaining. And I appreciate the fact that he speaks his mind regardless of how people are going to react to it. That sounded like it was going to be a legitimate answer, and then he just flip-flopped. It was you know what, F this guy.
Listen to how angry he gets.
Clause in there that's in all of our contracts. Isn't that creepy looking little a lawyer?
God. Here's the thing though. If you were in charge of a business, whether it's sports or whatever, and you had a clause where your employees weren't allowed to talk negatively about you, would you admit to that clause? No.
Why
I
not?
don't think it's in it.
I can't talk trash. I'm not going to talk trash about the Sunshine State Showdown, no matter how, off you may be one day.
I think it's implied, though. Clearly, if you talk bad about your employer, you're probably going to get shafted in different ways from that employer. So whether there's a clause or not, as a general rule of thumb, Brandon, don't crap all over the people that are writing your paychecks.
Yeah. If you were to go to a restaurant and the server comes up, they go, hey, oh, by the way, this is a server, somebody who works at a restaurant that would wait on a table that you sit at. I know a lot of people have forgotten what this is like. And they say, oh, what can I get for you to drink? Also, by the way, before you order the food, it's awful here. Yeah, I mean, that's essentially the same thing. You can't do it. Don't disparage the company you work for. Moving on, let's finish on this one. Isaiah Walker is an offensive lineman who committed to Florida in January, and now, without ever playing, he decided, you know what? I'm transferring to the U. What is going on here?
First of all, I actually tried to recover recruiting for a year after I graduated. It's impossible because you have these kids that just change their mind nonstop. You're calling them. They're focused on what you would focus on in high school. So for me, it's a very difficult realm to get a grasp of. as far as the media goes. These kids flip and decommit and recommit so many times. You can't keep track of most of them. And by the way, even if a kid does commit, we know all these guys are getting paid, especially the better starred guys. They're, if he moved on from Florida to the University of Miami, they offered him a better deal. Whether you want to take that as monetarily or, hey, we're going to give you a better dorm room than you would, whatever it is.
So skeptical this guy is. I just thought he wanted to stay. No. Oh, he went back home. I think he was homesick. No. These kids get homesick, Zach, and everybody's stuck inside.
That's the exception, not the rule. That's the exception, not the rule. Because the rule of thumb is if a guy says, I'm going to go from A to B, in any of these conferences with these schools that we know about, it's because they're getting paid more to go to the other place, period.
Well, Manny Diaz, good on you for sticking your hand in your wallet. That has been What Exactly Is Going On Here. I've been your host, Brandon Kravitz, and the contestant today, Zac Blobner, will go home with our grand prize of a picture and a plush toy of a Cadillac Escalade. Congratulations, Zach.
I'm pumped, man. I don't know where you find a plush toy Escalade. I don't even know where I came up with that, but I'm excited to see it.
This segment brought to you by Build-A-Bear.com. Around the corner, Phillip, Rossman-Reich, OrlandoMagicDaily.com, the nostalgia of the mid-90s Magic next.
Rain or shine, these guys have you covered. Now back to the Sunshine State Showdown with Brandon Kravitz and Zac Blobner.
Show rolls along here on a Monday. Welcome back. Our show today presented by KeepFloridaGoing.com. Find out which businesses in the state are opening back up, where you can get takeout, get your car serviced, all that jazz. KeepFloridaGoing.com. Orlando, Miami, Jacksonville, all of our affiliates. Don't forget, if you miss our show live, you can find our podcast available daily. Check it out on the iHeartRadio app. Now, Zach, before we move on to Coast, which is a collection of some of the hottest topics from around the state as we fly around our beautiful peninsula. Before I get to it, I never really got your grade on our new game show. What exactly is going on here? Now, I can't tell you how often that game show is going to appear. I think it's more of a specialty. But what'd you think?
I liked it. It was good, man. Look, I definitely enjoyed it better than any of the nicknames you have for poll segments.
That's an extremely low bar to jump over.
I'll give it a solid, B+. I think that was a B+. I like that. I enjoyed that. It was fun.
Time for an A+ Coast to Coast.
Coast to coast and throws it down.
Let's slide over to Tampa. Talk to Zac Blobner as he gets us going here on Coast to Coast today. What's up?
We're going to start with the Orlando Magic. I actually talked about this a little bit earlier in the show, but there was a Twitter exchange which pitted Magic centers against each other. Vooch calling out Mo Bamba for being too young to remember NBA games played during the documentary of The Last Dance. Bamba was not thrilled at that and said, I guess I missed the part in history class where it started when I was born. Funny stuff. Where do you stand on this? I guess Twitter semi-feud, spat, I don't know, whatever.
I like to see the fire between those two guys. I mean, I think that there should be more competition. Like, people have always said, well, isn't Vooch upset that they drafted Bamba? Isn't Bamba upset that they paid Nick Vucevic? Yeah, you know what? They should both be upset. Doesn't mean they have to dislike each other. There should be a legitimate sibling if you're doing it right. Okay, if Steve Clifford, the head coach, is playing this right and both guys have their heads screwed on straight, there should be a very real sibling rivalry going on where you love your brother, but you're trying to beat him every single day when you wake up, no matter what it is. And for this case,
Steve Kerr and Michael Jordan.
Exactly. You piss me off, I'll punch you. And then you know what? We'll go get lunch afterwards. We'll talk about it over a burrito and a smoothie. Anyway, moving on. Coach Spoelstra revealed how his convo with Pat Riley went as he took over to be the head guy. He's laughing already. He painted a picture comparing it to the Godfather scene. He said, "I'm done. You're ready for it. This will be like you're in a bird's nest, and I'm going to push you off the branch, and you're going to have to figure out how to fly." This does feel very Godfather-like. You have enough experience. You've worked with enough people. This is happening. Take a couple of days. Get your crap together. Monday is the press conference. How would you categorize this under the realm of pep talk?
You come to me on the day of the NBA trade deadline with this. I thought it was fantastic. It's very Pat Riley, and sometimes it's cool to look behind the curtain, and the man behind the mask, behind the curtain, is the same guy that's in front of it, and who you expect him to be. I mean, Pat Riley oozes Godfather, especially now that he's down in South Beach, obviously having some time with the Lake Show and being around the league prior to that. And look, for Spoelstra, it all worked out. So we have the gift of hindsight, and it being 2020. I'd say the pep talk went well considering what Spo's done with his time in Miami, right, Brandon?
I think I might take that. I'm not sure who I'm gonna use that on yet, but I think at some point I'm gonna tell someone they're a baby bird and I'm pushing them off the branch. I think that kind of sets the tone for the rest of the relationship.
Man. You cracked me up. All right, we're going to head to the ice next, where the Panthers are running a series called Cats and Coffee currently. How do you drink your coffee, Brandon?
I like my coffee super strong. In the morning, I will put a dash of cream in it just to sweeten it up a little bit. And then in the afternoon, I've got an espresso machine. I just pounded 1 shot, 2 shots. Today was a 2-shot day as you get ready for the start of the week, so I'm all energized and jacked up. But that's, every day. Coffee is very important to me, morning and midday. I do not drink coffee at night because it hits me in my soul and I won't be able to sleep. That's me.
I like my coffee black. I like my whiskey on the rocks, and I like my sports in the sunshine, baby.
And I like my football jerseys pewter. Let's talk about the Marlins. Will we see Marlin Man at KBO or a Taiwanese baseball game?
Oh, my God. I'm going to guess no.
What about a cardboard cutout version of him?
I hope so, because if somehow Marlin Man pops up internationally at one of those games, considering all the things, I mean, Taiwanese people or fans are starting to go to those games, so I guess technically there is a way, but you're going to have to travel, you'd have to get in. That would take him from like a guy of like, whatever his legend level is now, it would up a whole notch from that. Like, he would be forever remembered everywhere. It'd be a 30 for 30.
Have you ever thought about, and this would really kind of save you some money on the clothes budget, if you were known as the guy who wore that one same shirt all the time? You know, it becomes your brand. You can kind of build something off of it. You become recognizable because of maybe like wear a bright yellow shirt, go Hulk Hogan style, and then you don't have to buy other clothes.
We've had guys like that here in Tampa Bay, but it's not something we talk about in a nice way. It's
usually those
it's
people
not
don't
something you're remembered for. Right. Like, it's not like, oh, hey, there's the guy that's always wearing that shirt with the pit stains and the yellow mustard shirt. Like, nah, bro, it's not a good thing. Not at all. All right, I want to jump back over to the Rays because I've had this baseball question on Coast to Coast for a while. Kevin Kiermaier says his funniest teammate is by far G-Man Choi, joking that he might not appreciate this comment about him, but G-Man looks like a cute, fat little baby trapped in a 28-year-old's body. I love him. He's great for the team. How would you take it if somebody described you as a what was it, a little cute fat baby trapped in a 28-year-old body?
No, I don't think I would take that as a compliment, Zach. I don't think I would. But he's not wrong.
No?
But I don't think that he's wrong.
I think it's funny. I'd laugh.
You'd laugh, and then you'd go home and you'd cry a little bit, and then you start, all right, get back on the bench press. I got to chisel this jawline. I like this one. Let's finish on this. The Bolts are doing some creative social media initiatives, which include fans sending pictures of their fridge on Twitter. If I opened up Blobner's fridge right now, what would it look like?
Wow, I just cooked a ton of chicken for lunch this week. I do my wraps, so I'll have a ton of chicken in there. I got some ultras for beer. Ariel, what do you have in the fridge? Anything? Carrots, lettuce, basically whatever rabbits eat. That's what she's got in there. Water, lots of water.
That's all, folks. No, I think that was Elmer Fudd. Anyway,
Space Jam. That's where we end.
There you go. Beautiful. I need to go food shopping. I don't think I have anything in my fridge, folks. That covers it for today. Thanks for spending some time with us. We're back tomorrow, covering everything in the Sunshine State. Good night, Florida. Stay safe out there.